So let's talk about this breaking news. Do you watch soccer at all? You don't watch
I
soccer, right?
no, I don't watch soccer. I mean, I've been wanting to, but I have not.
So the World Cup is in Qatar right now, and this American reporter, I'm familiar with him, Grant Wahl, was recently detained because he was wearing a gay pride t-shirt. This was a big thing because, Qatar's record on human rights, especially regarding LGBT, is not so enlightened. So a lot of the Westerners going and playing over there and covering it, they, wanted to go there and virtue signal and make their political statements and whatnot. So he was caught doing that. That was only a couple weeks ago. And just today, apparently, he died. It said he collapsed and died. Those are the only details we're getting. But this is a guy who's only 48 years old. He's clearly in very good shape. Okay. Way better shape than either of us. So the idea that he would just collapse and die is very fishy. And his brother immediately got on Instagram to say that he thinks foul play was involved. And I had to say I agree with him. I am not thinking that this healthy, relatively young man just dropped dead.
Hmm.
And that the whole, gay pride t-shirt, that's just a huge coincidence. His brother thinks that the Qatari government has something to do with that. I can't say I agree with that. I personally, if I had to guess, I would say it's just some fanatical person who took it upon themselves to do this.
Interesting.
Uh, it just goes to show you these, and well, for to be clear, just to set the record straight, I don't think this is a good thing. I don't endorse killing people because you disagree with their views. I don't think the press should be treated this way. This is clearly, in my opinion, not a civilized thing to do.
Mhm.
If it was the government, and even if it was just some lone crazy person, it's still not civilized, obviously. But I think it's a good reminder to other Americans that you don't have plot armor. You don't get to walk around this world into any country and lecture people and tell people they're wrong and you're right and offend them with impunity as if you're invincible. You do not have plot armor. You are a human being and you can be hurt. And you need to understand that when you're in someone else's country. And I'm afraid that a lot of Americans just don't get this.
Hmm.
They either think that other countries are as safe as America, or they think that being Americans that will protect them somehow. And in fairness, sometimes it does. People probably, if you're an American in a touristy area in a country, that does offer some protection, but you should never be that comfortable. You should never assume that you're safe. This kind of is in the same ballpark as the Brittany Griner situation.
Yeah.
You can't just walk around thinking you can do whatever you want to do. You have to be really mindful that you're in somebody else's house. And I'm afraid that this guy, he was not mindful about that. He wanted to make a political statement and it put his life in danger.
Hmm. Do you think he was poisoned or something?
Oh, it's so hard to say. I mean, the reports just say he collapsed. That could be poison. That could be, yeah, someone shot a dart at him. I don't know. It could be someone just shot him and they're covering it up. I don't know.
Hmm.
I will say that I do think that there's foul play. How can you
Yeah.
look at these circumstances and not think foul play was involved?
Yeah. Like for example, COVID vaccine would be way too coincidental, right?
Well, I'm sure this guy got the COVID vaccine a long time ago, so it's a little late to have a immediate reaction, maybe a later reaction,
Yeah.
but I would say it's more likely that somebody didn't like what he had to say. And it wasn't just him being detained and told to change his pride shirt. He also had to go online and make a big stink about it. I'm sure that put a target on his back.
Oh, right. I think I saw his Twitter post,
Yeah.
and I think that got a lot of attention.
I'm not happy to see someone killed just for expressing a political belief. But again, this is probably a lesson that more Americans need to learn.
They probably won't hear this lesson though.
No, they'll just probably the takeaway they'll get is that Qatar is a terrible place and the people are terrible and they're regressive and this and that. And all of those things could be true. But oh, this is a great analogy. You know how sometimes people tell women how to protect themselves at night from sexual assault? They'll say, don't go here, don't go there, maybe don't wear this, and don't drink too much while we are outside. And a lot of feminists, their response will be, how dare you? I should be able to do any of these things and not get sexually assaulted. It's the people who are sexually assaulting that are in the wrong. And I would entirely agree with you. You should be able to do all these things and not get assaulted. And the people who
Hmm.
do the assaulting are entirely in the wrong. And yet, we live in a real world. You want to protect yourself. So you need to apply some common sense to protect yourself because there are people who do bad things. There are people who don't care. And you have to live in that world.
Yeah.
Just such a naive expectation based on some idealized world that apparently doesn't exist. We
Yeah.
live in the real world. And I'm sorry to say that's where you live too.
It also feels like this is just the same sort of leftist, we know what's right for you sort of attitude, just applied in a different country.
It is. It's part of that. It's part of the whole, hey, why are your values, why do they not match up with our values? Our values are better than yours. Isn't that basically what he's saying? He's going there with a pride shirt. He's basically saying, our values are better than your values. And you know what? They may be.
Yeah.
I actually don't disagree. I mean, they're in places like Qatar, they do oppress people, LGBT people. They do terrible, heinous things to them.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it would be better if they were more like us. However, I'm not a moron. I don't go to their country and lecture them and insult them and offend them because I want to live.
Hmm.
Now, when I'm over here in the safety of my own country, sure, I'll criticize their government. I'll criticize their way of life all I want because I do think that there's a lot to criticize there. However, I have common sense and I have a self-preservation instinct, so I don't do it over there. It's
Yeah.
really that simple.
Yeah.
None of this is to defend Qatar. Qatar does have terrible policies. They are regressive, but just like you said, this is well in line with this sort of a leftist arrogance, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, the naivete is off the
Yeah.
charts.
Basically thinking that the repercussions would be similar to whatever they are in the US, which is none.
Right. Or at most, he thought maybe, oh, Qataris would yell at him online. That's probably what he thought the extent of it would be, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I would have thought too. This is a
Well,
shock to me.
then maybe it's an educational moment for you too.
It is. Yeah.
This is a foreign country you're talking about. Do not assume. So yeah, again, we don't report this with glee or anything. It is sad, and he didn't deserve to die for whatever he did. And the policies he's criticizing, I believe I agree, they are regressive. But you just have to be more humble. And I think that's probably a good way to put it. I think Americans, when they travel abroad, need to have more humility
Hmm.
because if you don't, you're going to get in trouble.